Ladies and gentlemen, consistency is not a gift. It is not something you wait for, nor something you stumble into. Consistency is a decision, one that must be made again and again, especially on the days when you least feel like making it. Every morning, you rise with two voices within you. One urges comfort, postponement, and excuse. The other calls you toward the life you said you wanted, the strength you dream of, the discipline you admire, the future you owe yourself. The question is simple: which voice will you obey? To be consistent, you must understand a truth that ancient thinkers lived by. Your emotions are not your master unless you let them be. Feelings fluctuate like the weather. They are not stable foundations for achievement. But your actions can be. If you choose discipline over emotion, you free yourself from the chaos of mood and the trap of procrastination. Discipline over emotion is the deliberate choice to act according to what is right, needed, and aligned with your long-term purpose rather than what feels comfortable in the moment. Emotions are like weather, shifting, inconsistent, and often influenced by factors beyond your control. One day you wake up motivated, the next you feel exhausted or discouraged. If your actions rise and fall with these emotional tides, you will never build momentum. But when you commit to discipline, you anchor yourself to something steadier and stronger than fleeting feelings. You create a foundation that does not crumble every time your mood weakens. The truth is, emotions are not the enemy. They are natural signals, reflections of your inner world. But they are terrible leaders. When emotion takes the lead, it exaggerates obstacles, whispers excuses, and convinces you to delay what must be done. It tells you that you deserve comfort before effort, rest before progress, reward before work. Discipline, on the other hand, speaks a quieter language, steady, firm, and honest. It reminds you that progress is not built on bursts of energy or sudden inspiration, but through repeated commitment, especially when motivation fades. Choosing discipline over emotion means recognizing that your future self depends on what you choose now, not on what you feel now. Every time you push through discomfort, you strengthen the mental muscle that allows you to act with purpose rather than impulse. Every time you follow through despite lack of motivation, you prove to yourself that you are capable of more than your emotions suggest. Over time, this becomes a form of inner power, an unshakable self-trust built through consistent action. There will be mornings when you don't feel like getting up early, days when your work seems pointless, moments when your doubts scream louder than your determination. These are the moments where discipline becomes your compass. It reminds you that your goals remain unchanged even when your feelings shift. If you surrender to emotion in those moments, you reinforce weakness. If you choose discipline instead, you reinforce strength. Discipline also protects you from the emotional storms that life inevitably brings. When you have trained yourself to act based on intention rather than impulses, challenges lose their power to derail you. You may feel stress, frustration, sadness, or fear, but you continue moving. You continue doing what is necessary. And this consistency builds resilience, the quiet confidence that you can navigate difficulty without falling apart. To live a life guided by discipline is not to ignore emotions but to place them in their proper role. You acknowledge them, understand them, and then choose your actions consciously rather than reactively. You stop being a slave to temporary moods and become the architect of your own path. In doing so, you cultivate a steadiness that emotions cannot shake, a direction that uncertainty cannot blur, and a strength that comfort cannot provide. Mastering the small daily battles is the quiet, disciplined work that transforms ordinary individuals into extraordinary ones. Greatness is rarely the result of one dramatic moment or a sudden breakthrough. It is the outcome of hundreds, even thousands, of small decisions made consistently over time. These small battles are often invisible to others. Waking up when the alarm rings, choosing focus over distraction, practicing a skill even when progress feels slow, and keeping promises to yourself even when no one is watching. They don't look impressive in the moment. In fact, they may feel insignificant. But they compound, and it is this compounding that shapes character, ability, and destiny. The world often praises the final achievement, the trophy, the recognition, the moment of victory, while overlooking the steady grind that built it. But every achievement has a hidden foundation, and that foundation is formed through daily repetition. When you commit to winning the small battles, you are telling yourself that excellence is not an event, it is a lifestyle. You no longer wait for inspiration or ideal conditions. You act, you show up, you put in the work, and you do this again the next day, and the next, until your actions become a natural part of who you are. There is a certain humility required to embrace these daily battles. They require patience, because the results rarely appear immediately. They require discipline, because many of them are easy to skip. And they require belief, because you must trust that your efforts today will create something meaningful in the future. But once you begin to understand the power of small steps, your mindset shifts. You stop underestimating the value of incremental progress. You begin to recognize that every repetition strengthens you, that every small victory builds momentum, and that every moment of discipline sharpens your will. The small daily battles also protect you from being overwhelmed by the size of your goals. When you look only at the final vision, it may seem distant or impossible. But when you break it down into today's tasks, it becomes manageable. You don't need to conquer the entire mountain at once. You only need to take the next step. Over time, step by step, effort by effort, you realize you've covered more ground than you ever imagined. This is how growth happens, not through leaps, but through steady strides. These daily battles train your mind to stay focused, your body to stay capable, and your spirit to stay committed. They teach you that success is less about talent and more about perseverance. They remind you that consistency, not intensity, is what truly builds mastery. When you learn to win the small battles, showing up, staying committed, choosing discipline, you become unstoppable, not because the tasks are easy, but because you have mastered the ability to keep moving forward regardless of how you feel. Control what you can is a simple principle, but it carries profound power. Life is filled with variables you cannot predict or influence. Circumstances shift, other people's decisions shape outcomes, unexpected challenges appear without warning. If you allow your stability, motivation, or progress to depend on these external forces, you become reactive, constantly tossed around by situations you never asked for. But when you focus on what is within your command, you reclaim your power. The one thing that always remains under your control is your consistency, the disciplined choice to show up, to keep going, and to do the work regardless of external conditions. Consistency is not about perfection, nor about avoiding setbacks. It is about returning again and again to the actions that align with your goals and values. It is about saying, I cannot decide how the world behaves, but I can decide how I behave. This mindset frees you from the frustration of trying to manage everything around you. Instead of fighting battles you cannot win, you concentrate your energy where it matters. You build habits, routines, and mental resilience that do not collapse when the world becomes unpredictable. There will always be days when circumstances seem to conspire against you. Delays, disappointments, criticism, unexpected responsibilities. It is in these moments that consistency becomes your anchor. You may not be able to control the difficulty of the day, but you can control whether you take even one step forward. Sometimes that step is small, sometimes it requires immense effort, but what matters is that the decision remains yours. Every time you choose action over helplessness, you strengthen your sense of agency. You remind yourself that you are not powerless, even when life feels overwhelming. Focusing on what you can control also brings clarity. When you stop wasting energy on things beyond your reach, you direct your focus inward, your attitude, your effort, your discipline. This internal focus sharpens your mind, reduces anxieties, and helps you make progress even during turbulent periods. You begin to understand that success is not a result of perfect conditions, but of consistent action taken in imperfect conditions. The person who keeps moving, even slowly, will eventually surpass the person who waits for everything to be ideal. Consistency also builds a kind of inner stability that external events cannot shake. When you know you can rely on yourself, uncertainty becomes less threatening. You don't need guarantees, because you trust your ability to adapt, persist, and respond with purpose. This trust is earned through repeated acts of discipline, showing up to train, to work, to practice, to improve, even when the world around you feels chaotic. By mastering consistency, you build a foundation stronger than circumstance. You free yourself from depending on luck or ideal situations. You create progress out of your own effort, not out of external permission. And in doing so, you grow stronger, steadier, and more capable of navigating whatever life places in your path. Choosing long-term strength over short-term comfort is one of the most difficult decisions a person can make, because it requires you to willingly face discomfort today for a reward that may not come for months or even years. Yet this principle lies at the heart of growth, mastery, and self-respect. Comfort whispers temptations that are easy to accept: rest instead of work, distraction instead of discipline, indulgence instead of restraint. Strength, however, demands more from you. It asks you to push beyond excuses, to embrace effort, and to tolerate discomfort in the service of something greater than momentary pleasure. When you choose long-term strength, you make a declaration to yourself that your future matters more than your impulses, that your purpose outweighs your cravings, and that becoming your best self is worth the temporary struggle. Today's discomfort becomes tomorrow's power, because discomfort is the training ground where resilience is forged. Every time you resist the pull of easy choices, you reinforce the mental toughness required to continue your journey. Every difficult task you complete becomes a piece of proof that you are capable of more than you thought. Strength is not something you acquire suddenly. It emerges from the constant act of doing what is hard, uncomfortable, or tedious. You learn to push through fatigue, to confront fear, to ignore the seductive call of convenience. And over time, these actions compound into an unshakable inner force that carries you through future challenges. Short-term comfort weakens this process because it numbs your potential. It lulls you into a passive existence where you prioritize feeling good now over becoming better later. When you repeatedly choose comfort, you erode your own self-trust. You create a habit of avoiding difficulty, and avoidance slowly becomes your default response. The path of comfort may feel smooth in the moment, but it leads to long-term frustration, missed opportunities, unfulfilled goals, and the slow fading of your own ambition. Strength and fulfillment cannot grow in soil that is never challenged. Choosing long-term strength does not mean rejecting all comfort. It means recognizing which comfort serves you and which comfort steals from you. Rest can be restorative. Breaks can be meaningful. But comfort that replaces effort, that delays dreams, or that distracts you from your responsibility to yourself becomes an obstacle. The real challenge is not identifying these moments, but deciding, in the moment of temptation, which version of yourself you want to honor, the one who seeks ease or the one who seeks excellence. When you embrace discomfort willingly, you rewire your relationship with challenge. You stop seeing struggle as something to avoid and start seeing it as necessary fuel for transformation. You understand that every difficult workout strengthens your body, every disciplined routine strengthens your character, every moment of persistence strengthens your mind. Discomfort stops being a signal to retreat and becomes a sign that you are growing. This shift in perspective is where real power begins.